Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about Mondelez India settling one of its most controversial tax disputes by paying 439 crore rupees. We will also talk about the Mumbai police's horse-mounted unit making a comeback. But first, we talk about Amazon CEO and founder Jeff Bezos. Back in May 2018, a WhatsApp message with a malicious file attached to it was sent to Jeff Bezos. Now, new reports published by The Guardian and the Financial Times claim that this is how his phone got hacked. But not only that, they also reveal that the sender of that malicious message was the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Shruti Dapola, who writes on technology for the Indian Express and is the host of our tech podcast called Our Own Devices, joins us to talk about exactly what went behind this hack. Shruti, what do we know about how Bezos's phone got hacked? United Nations had released a report late Wednesday with forensic details about the hack. Guardian first reported on it. What are the things that have stood out in those reports?
So the story about Jeff Bezos' phone getting hacked and that there being a possible Saudi Arabia link to this is not really new. It was hinted back in February 2019 when Bezos had actually first made a public announcement on Medium saying that he was being blackmailed with his intimate photos and messages. And later, the head of his cybersecurity team, who he had hired, Gavin DeBaker, had written a post on the Daily Beast, again hinting at Saudi link, that some form of electronic surveillance being used. Because let's remember, the very personal messages that Bezos had sent to his girlfriend were leaked in the press.
This is Lauren Sanchez, the television anchor.
Yeah, and they were leaked well before his relationship was made public. Now, what's been confirmed now is that Saudi Arabia definitely played a role, and Bezos' phone was hacked back in May 2018, and months worth of data was actually stolen. The hack was actually carried out via WhatsApp. It seems a maliciously encrypted video file was sent to Bezos from the WhatsApp account of Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. And since then, Bezos' phone started behaving differently. It was sending out a lot more data. And the most likely conclusion that the UN report has said is that the NSO group's Pegasus spyware was used to carry out this unlawful surveillance on Mr. Bezos.
And this Pegasus software is the same software that was used last year, and it targeted some 1,400 devices across 20 countries. This is where we saw academics, lawyers, activists, and journalists being targeted, right?
So yes, around 2,000 people were targeted in India as well with Pegasus. Pegasus, of course, has been around for a long time, and it was actually first reported back in 2016 when there was a flaw in iOS and it could be used to take over the device. Then Apple, of course, fixed the issue. Pegasus most recently, of course, again exploited WhatsApp, and even in the Jeff Bezos case, WhatsApp again seems to be the culprit. So when it was reported in May 2019, actually, though Indian Express, of course, reported in 2018 that people in India were also targeted. Financial Times had actually first reported in May 2019 that there was a targeted campaign using WhatsApp where NSO Group's Pegasus spyware was deployed on people's phones. And what Pegasus did then was that a missed call was being sent, or even a voice call or a video call was made to the victim's phone. The victim didn't have to actually pick up. A missed call was enough. And once this call was made, it would allow the NSO group to actually take over the phone via Pegasus and then, steal the data and do unlawful surveillance. Again, in Bezos' case, we know it's a different vector that's been used to deploy the Pegasus spyware, which is an encrypted MP4 video file, which obviously had a malicious code in it.
What do we know about why his phone was hacked?
So the reason his phone was hacked is actually deeply connected to Bezos' ownership of the Washington Post, which is a very well-respected newspaper in the US. And the Washington Post has been very critical of the Saudi regime. Its late columnist Jamal Khashoggi was an outspoken critic of the regime, especially MBS. And that hasn't gone down well with the Saudis. And that's believed to be the reason why his phone was hacked. In fact, after this whole story broke, Jeff Bezos later tweeted just saying #Jamal and a picture of him at, the memorial for Jamal Khashoggi. And that's, I think, his way of making the statement. And in the past also, when he had revealed his blog post about being blackmailed, he had said that my ownership of Washington Post is a complex situation and that it is going to make a lot of powerful people uncomfortable. But he said he continues to be proud of his ownership of that institution and that, he's not going to step in and, tell them to back away from covering powerful people.
You mentioned that Pegasus is developed by the Israeli firm NSO. Do we know about any prior links between NSO and the Saudi regime?
Yeah, there have been instances before where Saudi Arabia's regime has actually used the NSO group's Pegasus spyware. By the way, NSO group continues to deny that Pegasus was used. In fact, they've issued a statement saying, if the story is true, it should be investigated and we stand for human rights, and this kind of surveillance is a black eye to the entire cybersecurity community. I believe they also said a statement where they said that their software cannot be used to target US phone numbers. So NSO is completely denying that this has happened. And remember, in the first time when WhatsApp also filed the case against them, they also denied that their software was actually being used. But again, as we've pointed out, this is a licensed software. Not everyone can just get it off the internet. The contract runs probably in millions of dollars, and you can't just obtain it like that. And coming to the Saudi Arabia regime's links with the NSO group, we have seen in the past that other Saudi Arabia activists have been targeted with Pegasus as well. Amnesty had a report back in 2018 how 2 of their workers were sent suspicious links, which were again linking back to the Pegasus domain, to the NSO group domain, and that they were probably being targeted by the spyware. Another instance which has been highlighted is by the Citizen Lab at Toronto, who've actually revealed a lot about how Pegasus is operating across the world. They had highlighted how another Saudi student and dissident, Omar Abdulaziz, was targeted by Pegasus, probably authorized by the Saudi government. He was also a close friend of Jamal Khashoggi and actually looked at him as a kind of a mentor. Khashoggi, of course, as we all know, was slain at the Saudi embassy in Turkey, and he's believed to have been killed by Saudi agents.
Since these reports have come out, have the limitations been fixed? Do the users need to worry about anything?
So actually, this MP4 file issue was highlighted by WhatsApp back in November 2019, and they had fixed it. And as always, they had asked everyone to update. But as we know, Jeff Bezos' phone was already hacked in May 2018. So his phone's data was being stolen for well over months. So the issue was probably discovered a bit too late by Facebook and WhatsApp. They haven't issued a statement on this. And of course, it's going to raise questions about the safety of the platform. But let's remember that many of these exploits, even the developers aren't really aware. It's these, super secretive cybersecurity firms who are trying to, find new ways to carry out surveillance, who know all of this. And they're obviously not going to tell Facebook, hey, you have this flaw, fix it. So for users, I would say that there can be a security flaw in pretty much every single software. The only way to really escape this is to throw your smartphone into the toilet for all you want to, if you really want to be safe. Because even the voice and the video call flaw on WhatsApp was a 0-day vulnerability, which basically means that the developer had no clue. And it's only when they found out that they could fix it. And these are pretty common across software by companies, be it, iOS or Android. And every month, that's why you have security updates being pushed out by companies. In fact, sometimes you'll find reports that, there's a flaw, you need to update your phone because that's what's going to keep you secure. But as we know, it was a little too late in Bezos' case. And I believe at the time in November, WhatsApp had said they didn't think anyone was impacted by this. But obviously, the Bezos case kind of proves that that's not true. Someone very big, in fact, was impacted.
Next, we talk about Mondelez India Foods Private Limited, which was earlier called Cadbury India. Mondelez has settled one of its most controversial tax disputes. The firm was accused of evading taxes of about rupees 580 crores, and on Tuesday paid 439 crore rupees under the amnesty scheme. Khushboo Narayan, who broke the story, joins us on a call to talk about it. Khushboo, could you first talk a bit about the case and Mondelez India's attempt to evade taxes?
So this is a very old and contentious case and dates to 2010-11. The government had alleged that the company evaded excise duty by misusing area-based exemption for its new production unit in Baddi, which is in Himachal Pradesh, even before the unit came into existence. However, the company has maintained that its decision to claim the tax benefit in Baddi is valid. So in 2015, after an investigation, the Revenue Department of the government issued a tax demand of around 580 crore to the firm. And eventually, with penalties and interest, that demand swelled to over around 800 crore. Now, Mondelez has gone ahead and settled the case under the new amnesty cum dispute resolution scheme of the government called Sabka Vishwas Legacy Dispute Resolution Scheme, which was opened about 4 months beginning September 2019. Mondelez has paid rupees 439 crore to the government and settled the case. So the provisions of the case, like under any amnesty scheme, this scheme basically was launched to allow quick closure of litigations. And the scheme provides immunity from penalty, interest, and other proceedings as per the provisions of the scheme, and to entities who pay the declared tax dues.
So now that the company has paid 439 crore rupees, does this mean that it's completely off the hook?
So this is a tricky case because apart from the tax department, Mondelez has also come under the scanner of Central Vigilance Commission and the CBI. In 2017, the parent company Mondelez International Inc. agreed to settle charges raised by U.S. Securities Exchange Commission by paying around $13 million for violation of the provisions of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Basically, the SEC had said that Cadbury India paid a local businessman around $90,000 in 2010 to bribe officials in Himachal Pradesh and other places to obtain licenses and approvals for the expansion of the same Baddi unit. Subsequently, in 2017, the CBI filed a case against Mondelez and several unknown officials under the Prevention of Corruption Act. And now that case, according to experts, cannot be closed as it does not fall under the exemptions provided by the amnesty scheme. While the CBI has filed the FIR, it is not very clear if the agency has also filed a charge sheet in the case.
Could you also talk about the amnesty scheme itself? What has been the response since the government launched it?
The scheme has got a lukewarm response from taxpayer. It was launched in September 2019 and was supposed to end on December 2019. However, the deadline was extended till January 15, 2020. According to the data, the amount declared under the scheme stood only at just 8.5% of the total amount locked in litigation, which is at around rupees 3.6 lakh crore.
And last, we talk about the Mumbai police. On Sunday, the Mumbai police announced that after a gap of 88 years, its horse-mounted unit will be making a comeback. Srinath Rao, who reports on crime and policing for the Indian Express, joins us on a call from Mumbai to talk about this unit. Srinath, we know that, say, 100 years back, when there weren't cars, you had policemen who would ride on horses. But why has the Mumbai police now decided to mount its force on horses?
There had been plans for the last 2 years at least to get these mounted police back. I mean, almost every major city in the country has these. And especially, say, in coastal cities. I mean, Chennai has, say, you ever go to Marina Beach in Chennai, you have constables on the horseback. So, say, in beaches, they're quite useful, I mean, in dense crowds to keep a watch, say, from heights. And especially, I mean, yeah, it's a bit strange that the reason they were first phased out is because, back in the 30s, cars were just coming into Bombay's roads and it was felt that there's not enough space anymore. So to bring them back now. But in the last few years, I mean, there's a need been felt, say when there's a large crowd or demonstrations, your average constable on the road may not command that kind of respect or may not be able to get the same kind of grip as, say, a person on a horse because they manage to bring, say, crowds under control a lot easier.
Will they be performing any particular specialized tasks?
The other functions that they will be performing, say, they'll be part of, say, state functions to greet, say, VIPs or state guests. So they'll be part of, say, they'll be piloting a cavalcade. The other thing that the police plans is for, say, a situation develops, say a law and order situation or some big assembly of people. That's when they plan to bring the mounted police. They'll be transporting the mounted police to say situation and then be deploying them at that kind of situation.
And how big will this unit be, this mounted police?
So as of now, they've got 13 horses. The plan is to acquire 17 more. And you have about, say, there's 38 riders have been selected from within the force. Each horse and each rider, they've been going through the last few months, they've been going through rigorous training, say, for the riders to get comfortable with the horses, for the horses to get comfortable, to learn patrolling, to learn how to move around in crowds, to learn the kind of behavioral aspects that come with being part of a police force. So yeah, you got 30 horses.
And when do they start?
No date just yet. This is just, say, the 4th month of training. Sunday, Republic Day, is going to be the first public function, but there's still quite a few months away from actual proper deployment on field. There's no date just yet. At the launch last week, they haven't put a date to it, but just said that they're still at least, say, 4 or 5 months away from active deployment.
You were listening to 3 Things by the Indian Express. Today's show, as always, was edited and mixed by our producer, Joshua Thomas. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Audio and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com. @indianexpress.com. @indianexpress.com.